Carolyn Dube here, and today I'm playing in my art journal. This background is from cleaning off a jelly plate at some point, don't know when, and the stencil I'm using right here is one of my new ones from over at Stencil Girl Products. It's called Picasso's Words. This stencil is made up of quotes from Picasso, and a lot of his quotes really speak to me, and I wanted to have a stencil that was a little more abstract, but yet had the ideas and feelings infused in it from his quotes. So that's what I ended up doing with this, is creating these overlapping words. Some of it's legible, some of it's not. I use this more as a pattern than as a word stencil per se. And so as I looked at this, I had this idea that I wanted to add something very modern, getting that sort of that modern feeling of Picasso with it. But how funny that this ended up going the completely opposite direction of where I thought it was going. Well, as I looked through my stuff, this vintage cookbook ended up in my hands, and as I was looking through at the different pages, not very modern here, but very vintage, the page about Johnny Cakes really just jumped out at me and spoke to me. So I'm going to go with that one, and instead of what I thought was going to be a very modern feel, I'm ending up with a very unmodern feel to this one. Well, I cut out my two little people, saved the word Johnny Cakes, because for some reason, that's just the coolest couple of words to me right now. And as I put them on the paper, I kind of know where I want them to go, but I'm not going to glue them down yet because I want to add some more layers before I actually do the gluing. Well, what are the proper kinds of items to layer with two characters cut out of a vintage cookbook? Well, since there are some very clear, very distinct rules about this, I decided, well, okay, there aren't any real rules about this. It's just go find stuff that feels like it fits. Kind of went for the orange and cream, orange and white kind of theme, which made it kind of easy. I just started grabbing a bunch of orange stuff that I have. So from old tickets, tags, a bridge card, which, by the way, I've never played bridge. I don't fully understand how you keep score with that, but the cards are really cool with all the lists and grids and that kind of stuff. So I'm just kind of layering stuff up that way, and when I've got it about where I think I want it, I'm going to whip out that good old glue stick and glue that stuff down before I start thinking way too much about it. Now this frame was a die cut, and of course it's not the exact color that I want, but magically I have a cosmetic sponge and acrylic paint, so I can change its color to be anything that I want. And I have to say with this one, I was like, well, do I want it here? Do I want it there? And is this right? Is that right? And I really just need to glue this thing down and quit messing with it, besides adding a little more color to it. It's going there. I am going to glue that thing down, and I'm just going to deal with whatever happens because it's glued down there, and that's where it's going. Well, about this point in the art journal page, the story of these two really started to come to life for me. And these are, they've been drawn apart, torn apart by time and circumstance and distance, and they miss each other. You can see them just trying to reach for each other. Yeah, it's a little over dramatic in my head too. And so anyway, the words here are what is the bridge between them as they send each other letters and that kind of thing to stay in contact. Well, I wanted the words to fill in that space in between them. All I did was bring my stencil back and fill it in a little bit here and there randomly. Since this is a great pattern stencil, nothing has to line up perfectly, and I can go back in and just sort of fill it in where I wanted. Now, you know that I came back and did this afterwards because I really had no idea exactly where this was going when I started. But to somebody that's looking at the finished page would never know that this wasn't part of my big plan. Now that these two have told their story to me, and that's what I'm capturing in the art journal, it made it a lot easier for me to decide what I was going to do next. So I've got that stencil that was Legends and Scales, and that created the kind of postmark look, and then I put way too much thought into where to position that postage stamp, if you ask me. I should have just glued that thing down. But anyway, we all have our little quirks. Apparently I have a lot of postage stamp quirks. And anyway, so now what I'm doing is staying with that travel theme. I'm coming in with some stamps from Mary Nassar, because these two have had to travel great distances to stay in contact because, clearly they aren't exactly dressed for, the 21st century. And since I'm completely making this story up totally in my head, it can be whatever I want it to be. That's the great part about just making stuff up. And yes, I'm still fiddling with that postage stamp. Goodness gracious, Carolyn. Well, this is the story of a timeless love affair between these two. And like all good stories, there has to be that thing that draws them together. Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks in Sleepless in Seattle met at the top of the Empire State Building. And what about these two? What is going to draw them together? That's going to just bring their story all wrapped up neatly in a bow? Yes, it's the Johnny Cakes. That's what draws them together. Good old-fashioned Johnny Cakes. I needed to add a little bit more to that title of Johnny Cakes. So I took a painted tag and ran it through a vintage typewriter. And what I'm going to do is put in the words, "For the love of Johnny Cakes." Because that's really what drew these two together in the end. Yes, indeed. And by the way, I have no idea exactly what a Johnny Cake is. I've never eaten a Johnny Cake, but I've completely made it up what I want it to be. That's the cool part about art journaling, is it can just be whatever it is you want. And if you've enjoyed this video and this crazy story of these star-crossed Johnny Cakes lovers, then I would love it if you pop over to the blog and sign up for my newsletter to keep up on all the other crazy things that I'm up to. And when you sign up for my newsletter, of course, you'll find a free video waiting for you, as well as a downloadable PDF showing 3 ways that I thwart the inner critic. You know me, it's going to be fast, it's going to be simple, and it's going to be fun. And if you'd like to know when I have new videos out so that you don't miss a thing, I'd love it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for being a part of this colorful journey.